just recently did for us Hold These Truths and VIETGONE. I just wondered, Hold These Truths came after a long period of just not working because of the pandemic. What was that like for you? What did you do during the pandemic?
It was tough. You know, I can talk about it a little bit more since we're, a little bit separated from it, although not really in it. But like it was challenging. The first part of it, I was scared. I was really scared, like all of us were, and frightened of what was going to happen next, what was going to happen to the theater. Trying to stay healthy, and I joined a lot of Zoom meetings with friends because we went from hanging out with each other socially to nothing at all, and I think we wanted that sort of like connection. So like I was in Zoom rooms, 3 days out of the week, just talking with people, different groups of people, the VIETGONE cast, some other casts, and it was nice to make those connections. But as it went on, it just got more and more, I felt more and more like isolated and, just really struggling to find things to do to keep my mind occupied, to keep, my body moving. I watched a lot of TV, like all of us did. And, I was fortunate enough to do some things like with Playground, some Zoom readings, Zoom plays, and, with SF Playhouse, who co-produced Hold These Truths, and doing, plays for them that were exclusively for streaming. So that was nice. And I was very lucky to be able to do that. And, Theater Mu over in Minnesota, which was a positive because, if it wasn't for, being on lockdown or all that, I wouldn't have been able to work with them. So that was a cool thing. So yeah. And I tried working out. I tried experimenting with, making bread. That didn't work out really well. That didn't work out at all. I tried, when everyone was growing yeast, in those mason jars. Is it yeast or a starter?
Starter, yeah, sourdough starter.
Yeah, it was cool for a second. I'd look in and be like, oh, there are bubbles. That's really cool. And then it died. And then I was like, I'm just not doing that. That's just not my thing.
So when you finally got back more or less on track, what was it like to be in front of a live audience again? Did you have any trepidation about performing, or?
There was a little bit of a hesitation of like, can I do this? And, do I still remember how to do this thing that we call theater? And that only lasted for a second because that was overpowered by this idea of like, I just want to be in front of an audience. I just want to be live. I want to be able to make connections to audience members and be able to tell a story. It was meaningful in a way of like, I never thought like going back to the theater for the first time since pandemic, that it would be, I always imagined it would be like this cast of like, a bunch of people and all that stuff. And we'd be like, yay, we're all back. But it was, with Hold These Truths, it was like just me. So I was just in my dressing room going, yay, we're back, we're back. And with Jeffrey, the director, being like, yay, we're back. It was a different experience, but still a really gratifying experience. I can remember the first time walking on stage and just, I had this sort of instinct to be like, break the wall and being like, hey, before we start, I just want to say thank you guys for coming to the show. Because that was the thing too, where it was just like, some of my actor friends would be like, are you nervous? Is it hard? Is it hard for performing for an audience where, the house isn't full and you're only occupying like 30% or 50%. And I was like, no, not at all. I don't even think about that. I'll do it for 5 people. If they show up, I'll do it. Like, I was just so grateful that people were coming back to the theater.
Why should people support theater and Capital Stage in specific?
Specifically with Capital Stage and with VIETGONE and with Hold These Truths, you know, those two plays specifically are probably going to be, or are so far, two of the most important pieces that I've been a part of. And because it has to do with adding to the narrative. You know, we think we know one thing about a certain piece of history, but then these pieces give you another perspective or add another perspective, like with Hold These Truths, with, you know, with the Japanese internment camps. Like, you know, there were some people who showed up and were just like, I didn't know about this, you know, and then there were other people who showed up to the show and was like, I knew about this, but I didn't know about this specific person, Gordon Hirabayashi. And it's just really interesting. And with VIETGONE, you know, we know about the Vietnam War, and, you know, VIETGONE is a totally like fictional piece, but it adds a sort of different layer to what we think. It adds another perspective in this really fictional way, but a storytelling kind of way. But it really enhances sort of like our point of view. And I think, you know, with Capital Stage, and I said this to you, Michael, once before, I just love your programming, the programming of the season, because it's not just like entertainment for pure entertainment. Like, your season is so entertaining, but it also asks the audience to think. It asks the audience to sort of like come to the theater with their own ideas and be open about other ideas, you know, so that it can, you know, the ideas that they came with can sort of shift a little bit, maybe validate what they were thinking anyway, maybe totally change their mind of what they were thinking. Like, the human experience is so complex. And I feel like just when we think we know what the human experience is, theater tells us, no, you don't. You know, there's so much more. It's beautiful, it's complex, it's dark, it's funny, it's dramatic. You know, it's all those things. And I think the more people experience theater, the more, you know, not just storytelling, but being with people, audience members, patrons who want to be in a shared experience, I think the more, you know, empathy we can create in our community. I think that's why people should come to the theater.